Is temptation a sin? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. And we're also going to talk about a couple of things that you need to be aware of when it comes to temptation. All that coming up. Let's get it. Yo, what's up everybody? This is James Howard Jr. I'd like to thank you for checking out this video on today. If you're new to this channel, we're all about empowering men to honor God in every single aspect of their life. If that's something that you're interested in, I want you to consider subscribing. So, is temptation a sin? Short answer, no. All right, that's it. Peace. Come back. Now, that in itself is true. Temptation does not equal sin. We see in Matthew chapter 4 verses 1 through 11 that Jesus himself was tempted. And we know that Jesus lived a life that was perfect, which means he did not sin. That means that temptation in itself is not sin. But it gets a little tricky. So today I want to talk about 3 things that you need to be aware of when it comes to temptation. The first thing that you need to realize is that temptation is an invitation to sin. I've heard of temptation being explained like this. You can't control what birds fly over your head, but you can choose which birds you will chase. In Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11, we see that Jesus is tempted. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was tempted with food and a whole bunch of different pleasurable things. But like we said, temptation is an invitation to sin. You don't have to accept the invitation to sin. Just because the temptation comes to your mind doesn't mean that you have to entertain it. Yeah. Number 2, sin is a choice. You don't accidentally sin. I don't even know how that happened. I just don't know. It just happened. No. Sin is an active choice that you decide to make. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 28, Jesus says this: "You have heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Now, this scripture is specifically talking about adultery, but you can plug in whatever temptation or whatever sin it is that you struggle with. Jesus isn't saying that just because you think a certain sin that you should go ahead and act it out. But Jesus is saying in this scripture that the thought of actually wanting to do that sin, taking that temptation, internalizing it, really lusting about it, or making it something that you really want to do, that's when it becomes sin. You may be saying, well, James, I haven't done anything. Well, thinking is an action. Thinking is actually something that you do. Yeah. So if you take your temptations, you grab them, you internalize it, you fantasize about what you want to do with whoever you want to do or whatever you want to do, that's when it becomes sin. So sin is a choice. And the last thing you need to be aware of about temptation is that there is always a way out. Scripture makes it clear. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. It says, "The temptation in your life are no different from what others experience. And God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure." The problem with a lot of us, if we can be real, if we can be honest, is that we don't see the way out because we're so focused on the actual sin. And don't get me wrong, sin is fun. We want to enjoy it. We want to do that. That's the problem. But God makes it clear that there's always a way out. So my encouragement to you is that the next time you feel tempted, automatically start looking for your way out. Maybe if you sit behind a fine girl at school, you need to maybe move seats. Find a woman at work that you always kind of, be a little tempted with. Maybe you don't need to talk to her as much. Maybe there's certain websites that you shouldn't be going to. Maybe there's certain times of the day where you shouldn't be on your phone or where you shouldn't be on your computer. And I'm specifically talking about sexual sins, but you can fill in the blank. Whatever tempts you, whether it's cussing, whether it's stealing, whether it's lying, whatever your sin is, you fill in the blank. Always be aware that there is a way out. So that gives us no excuses, guys. No excuses to fall into temptation because God always creates a way out. Now, is it always easy to see that way out? No, because like I said, sin is fun. We want to enjoy it. We all fall into sin and we all are sinful people. But God has made a way for us to break free from it. We just have to do what we need to do to be aware and to build up the strength that we need to resist those temptations and find the way out. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget, if you are not subscribed and you like this kind of content, make sure that you subscribe. Also, don't forget to turn on the notifications so you can be notified every time a new video drops. Actually, this video is part 1 of a 3-part series where we're going to be talking about temptation. So if you want to have more tips and more tricks and different things that you need to do and that you need to be aware of when it comes to temptation, I want you to make sure that you subscribe and you have those notifications on so you don't miss anything. All right, until next time, peace.